May 27th, coming up on us fast. So let's talk about the concerns for each fighter. The IBF welterweight title showdown between the special one, Kell Brook, and the truth, Errol Spence. Concerns for each fighter. Let's start with Kell Brook. The first concern that comes to mind with Kell Brook is the weight. Brook has always struggled to make 147 pounds. His last fight was at 160. He was much bigger than Golovkin at the 30-day weigh-in. He was bigger than Golovkin at the weigh-in the night before the fight. And on fight night, he was bigger than Golovkin. Let's keep it real. So, how hard will it be to lose 13 pounds of that muscle and get back down to a weight you already struggled to make after fighting at 160? Well, really more than 160 if you count whatever he weighed during fight night against Golovkin. Can you lose weight and muscle and be the same guy at 147 as you once were? Have you seen anyone do it before and come back down and be at full strength? I'm talking about boxing history. Personally, I've never seen anyone do it and still be the same guy at the smaller weight. If you take a look at Chad Dawson, he moved up to light heavyweight to stay. So he had already decided it's time to move up to that division. And he was offered a deal to pretty much drain himself to fight Andre Ward, and he took it. The difference between Dawson and Brook is that Dawson was already committed to the new division. He just took a one-fight deal and he was dead at the weight. If you combine that with the fact that Edison Miranda knocked Dawson out cold in sparring when he was in training camp, you figure Chad didn't have much of a chance that night. And once it was over, Dawson went right back up to light heavyweight. Also, mind you, that was only one weight class he came down, not two weight classes like Brook is attempting to do. Another example is Roy Jones Jr. He went up two classes and he beat John Ruiz. And then his plan, unlike Brook, was to stay in the heavyweight class and take on Mike Tyson and then call it a career. That didn't pan out, so he came back and he fought Antonio Magic Man Tarver. Now, when he came back down, Roy, he didn't look right. He fought like a shell of himself, and even though I think Antonio Tarver would have given him trouble no matter what weight they ever fought at, Roy clearly wasn't at full strength. So he won the fight on the cards, but I thought Tarver beat him in the first fight. One fight later, Tarver knocked out a much better conditioned Roy Jones. So he looked much better as far as his weight and everything in the second fight, but he got knocked out. So could you attribute that to, once again, cutting all that weight down? So I couldn't think of one fight where a guy moved up a couple of weight classes and then came back down to not only win, but also look like the guy he was before he moved up. So I reached out to my third favorite boxing historian of all time, the great Scott El Canito Krause. And Scott thought about it a little bit, and he only recalled one occasion. Back in 1986, Tommy Hearns beat middleweight Doug DeWitt. Okay, so they're fighting at middleweight. Then in 1987, Hearns moved up from middleweight to light heavyweight, and he beat Dennis Andres to win the title at light heavyweight. Then later on, he went back to middleweight, and he beat Juan Rodin. Now, we didn't get a proper gauge on Hearns because the fight with Rodin only went 4 rounds. And while Hearns looked good through the first round, by the third round he seemed to be gassing as Rodin kind of carried the fight too fast for Tommy. But to his credit, Tommy got Rodin out of there in the 4th round with a counter right hand. Now, here are the two differences between Hearns and Brook. First of all, Tommy Hearns has that one-hitter quitter, that big right hand. Kell Brook doesn't. All Hearns needed to do was get extension on his right hand, and the fight was over. So you can check out the fight with Juan Rodin and go to the 4th round. Check out the Rodin fight. Check out the Duran fight. He got that extension on Roberto Duran and knocked him out. Second difference is, look at Kell Brook's frame at 5'9", and then look at Tommy Hearns' frame at about 6'1.5", maybe 6'2". And what you notice is the skeleton isn't the same. I mean, Hearns is like a Paul Williams type frame that, while it has muscle, it's like lean muscle. Whereas Brook is bulk. There's just a big difference. And I'll also add this. After the Rodin fight, Hearns got steamrolled in the very next fight by Iran Barkley in 3 rounds. And I'll also add that Hearns' next fight after that was at super middleweight, which is 8 pounds higher than middleweight. So I think he knew that he just wasn't the same guy and couldn't fight at middleweight anymore. So if I'm Errol Spence, I'm carrying the fight fast, and I'm working Kell Brook's body. I'm extremely concerned with Brook here as far as the weight is concerned. And everybody walks around, oh, well, looks like Kell's going to make weight, so everything's fine. Well, no. Here's the key question there. The key question is, did Kell Brook lose the weight early in camp? You know, did a lot of the weight come off early in his training camp? Or did he spend his entire camp making weight? There's a big difference there, folks. If this was a weight loss camp and not a true training camp for this fight, odds are that Brook is in trouble. Remember, when he won a razor-thin decision against Carson Jones, when he rematched Jones, he did it at 152 pounds, not 147. The struggle continues. Another concern for Brook is, how is he going to deal with pressure? You saw how he struggled for 12 rounds with Sean Porter. Although everybody struggles with Sean Porter's ugly style. He also struggled with Golovkin. When Golovkin put that heat on him, he kind of seemed a little lost. When Spence presses him, he's got to hold Spence like he did Porter, which makes the referee key in this fight. Which way will the referee go? What will he allow and what won't he allow? This could be a key in the fight. If he allows Brook to the hold when he chooses to and doesn't immediately start threatening to take away points, then that'll work in Brook's favor. But if he's a no-nonsense official and he starts to immediately threaten to deduct points, then there could be a problem. Another concern is, how is Kell Brook, how is his face going to hold up? Specifically the eye socket. Gennady Golovkin is right-handed, but the injury to Brook happened to Kell's right eye, not his left. Well, Errol Spence Jr. is a lefty, which puts his power hand closest to Brook's injured eye. So how will it react to Spence's left-handed bombs hitting it over and over? It's a key question, key concern. An additional concern for Brook is stamina due to his weight loss. So it's not just a question of strength, which I pointed out earlier. If he spent camp trying to make weight, it'll show in the middle rounds. His stamina, which, I gotta be honest, hasn't always been the best. If you go back to the Carson Jones fight, if you even the Golovkin fight, that's a concern. One more concern for Brook is, we know about the weight situation. We know about the eye socket. But how does Brook recover mentally from the beating he took in his last fight? You're coming off a loss. You didn't take a tune-up fight. You're jumping right in with a guy who's one of the best opponents on your resume. And you haven't been active, as this is coming off of an 8-month layoff from a loss. Very concerned. Now let's take a look at Errol Spence Jr. First thing that for Spence that comes to mind is his resume. Now, look. If you take a long look at Kell Brook's resume, there's a lot of junk on it. I mean, there's some records that take a look at his record. Now, granted, it's early on, but some of the guy's records, man, goodness. He fought a couple guys. Just look at the loss column of a couple of his opponents. I'm not going to spoil it for you. Just check it out. Early on, though. I'll give you that. But the bottom line is, he beat Golovkin, he beat Porter, and he beat Sinchenko, who I think might be a better win for him than Chris Algieri is for Spence. Why? Well, remember, Algieri is a blown-up super lightweight who has, to this day, 0 wins at welterweight outside of Eric Bonet. And in that fight, both guys were well under the weight at 145.8 pounds. So outside of Algieri, there's not much, there's nothing, really. I mean, to be honest. Secondly, has Errol Spence Jr. had anyone who can punch enough to keep him honest like a Kell Brook can? I mean, he's going through guys like Algieri and Bundu who can't punch. Well, Kell Brook has some pop to his punches and 25 knockouts in 37 fights. So he's got some right hands waiting for Spence. Other Spence opponents, they weren't fundamentally sound enough to keep Spence from coming in and doing as he pleased. Kell Brook is. So how does Spence adapt to that? Another thing is Errol Spence Jr. has some defensive flaws. He's not hard to hit. He's a little better, but still, the flaws are still there. He leaves himself wide open when he throws punches, and he's been caught in the past. Most people point to his fight with Emmanuel Larte. He got countered a few times nicely, specifically in round 6. No, I'm sorry. At the end of, what round was that? 3 or 4 with Larte. Now, you can also look at Leonard Bundu, who in round 6 landed some good shots against Errol Spence. Good shots, but Bundu doesn't hit hard. He's not a hard hitter. Nevertheless, it's going to catch up with Errol Spence if he doesn't get it corrected. Question is, will Kell Brook be the one? We don't know. But there's a big counter shot opportunity or opportunities for Kell Brook, and that's something that Team Spence should be concerned about. Next up is, how is Errol Spence going to handle Kell Brook's jab? Kell Brook is very good, has a very good jab. How's he going to handle the world-class ring IQ of Brook to go along with that jab? This isn't Phil O'Greco or Samuel Vargas in there. This is a top 3 welterweight. That's a concern. Another thing, Spence has fought quite a few stationary guys, stationary targets. And his recent knockouts have come with guys against the ropes. Bundu, Algieri, Alejandro Barrera, Chris Van Heerden, the list goes on. It's kind of like Kelly Pavlik. I mean, how many KOs came in the middle of the ring? So, if Brook is going to be able to keep moving, or stay off the ropes, or keep the fight in the middle of the ring, the question is, can Spence still be as effective? When Leonard Bundu caused Errol Spence problems, it happened when he was in the middle of the ring. That's a concern. Okay, so some random thoughts. It'll be very interesting to see who dictates the range in this fight. I think I know how the pace is going to be. It's the range that I'm interested in. Also, Errol Spence appears to have the power advantage. Appears to have the power advantage. So my guess is Brook is going to attempt to outbox Spence and at times find his openings and then try to seize control of those. The real question is, has Errol Spence fallen in love with his power? If so, his strategy may play into Kell Brook's plans. If I'm Spence, I try to carry this fight as fast as possible. Of course, work the body, but not necessarily load up on my punches. Try to carry the fight fast. A couple more points. You know, it's interesting that Floyd Mayweather Jr. never went to the UK to fight, yet he's sending his top 2 fighters, as a matter of fact, in back-to-back weeks at that, over to the UK. Hey, maybe he's living vicariously through them? Rumor has it that Golovkin ate or drank something kind of funny when he was in the UK. Kind of made him a little sick. A little Montezuma's revenge, maybe. If I'm Team Spence, they need to bring their own food and their own water over to the UK. I laugh, but I'm serious. The crowd. There'll be 30,000 fans. Errol Spence, are you ready for that? He says he is, but sometimes you get to the moment and you believe you're ready, and you get to the moment and the moment overwhelms you. I think he'll be fine. Lastly, the weather in Sheffield has been averaging about 50-something degrees as a high, and it's been raining like crazy, which will cause a sudden drop in temperature. I wonder if the cold weather will affect either or both of these fighters if the weather remains the same, if it's still on course like that, because this will be an outdoor venue, 30,000 people outdoors. The rain, the cold. Wonder if it'll have an effect. Make sure you follow us on Twitter, and please subscribe to our YouTube channel. It's absolutely free. And also check out our website, thefightjournal.com. We'll catch you on the next one.